I'm sorry, I
No,
totally forgot.
that's
Okay, so Adlai Stevenson
Mm-hmm.
was running as a Democrat for the presidency,
Mm-hmm.
and Dad and we had voted for him in 1952, and were enormous fans of his, and desperately, desperately wanted to be able to vote for him in 56. And we went to Bob English was the supervisor, the head of the supervisors of the checklist at that time. And there were two old men along with Bob English. And Bob English read all the rules and saw that we had no right to vote. We were not going to be able to vote at all in the presidential election because we hadn't been any place for 6 months. And the two old duffers who were with him were just nice old local guys. And Bob was an educated guy, been to Harvard and all that kind of stuff, and served in the State Department around the world at various places. He was, kind of a pompous person, and so he sort of read in the small print like this, very with his funny, he talked always as if he had a hot potato in his mouth, and persuaded the other two guys that it was the intent that counted, which of course was totally illegal. It wasn't the intent at all. And in those days, there was no such thing as a Democrat in the state government. It was a solid, solid, solid Republican. And if you wanted to have anything to say about who was serving in the state, you had to be a Republican, because when you go to vote in a primary, you pick a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. Whereas when you go in a national thing, a national election, you just pick you're given a ballot,
Right,
and then you can choose which one you want. So we had lived in New Hampshire long enough to know that if we voted Democrat in the primary, it was throwing away a vote. There was no chance. So we registered as we held our breaths and registered to vote. And when we were leaving the office, Bob English put an arm around each of our shoulders and said, "Oh, it's always very good luck, very good news to get another vote for the Republican Party." And Dad and I practically exploded. But the thing is that now I'm doing this editing of the accounts that he wrote in the town report every year. And he did a very good job, but I can't tell a story like that, and that would not be really very common. So there are a lot of funny Bob English stories that I can't really contribute, though I was asked to be a part of this publication because nobody else knew him, or nobody else is around or still alive who knew him. But I felt I really couldn't include that in the anecdotes about Bob English. So.
And did you finish telling how you first got involved with the McDowell colony?
Yes, with Nick Kubley.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And then he would come to the colonies summer after summer, and so there, for years, we would have parties, and there would be lots and lots of people. And then he used to come and stay over. We introduced him to cousin Elsa, who, aside from owning the house, the Pink Schmink Colonial, also owned Willard Pond and had the house out there. So so he used to stay out there often. Well, not stay out. Sometimes he would. She gave him the use of the house whenever he wanted it, so there would be some pretty wild parties out there. But the reason she had Willard Pond was because when she was younger, the Red House, our old house, was originally, for Tudor, was Mrs. William Tudor, who must have been cousin Elsa's either aunt or mother. I don't remember which. But in any event, when the Tudors owned, the cottage, the the Yellow House, the Red House, and all the land, and Juggernaut. They owned huge, huge territory. And when it came to dividing it up among some of the Tudor heirs, Cousin Elsa was offered either Juggernaut or Willard Pond. And she chose Willard because she said there were more fairies out at Willard Pond, meaning little fairies. Anyway, and then before we moved here, Louis Thatcher, who was married to Elizabeth, another Elizabeth Tudor, gave Juggernaut to the town of Hancock for its water supply.
Okay.
So it gets very complicated. And I hope I haven't totally screwed you all up.